Good morning, everyone. Thank you once again for signing in this morning. We're going to continue with lesson 17. Yesterday, we covered chapter 15 of Fever 1793, and we also covered chapter 7 of An American Plague. So, today we're going to focus on Fever 1793, chapter 16, and we're going to tie it back a little bit to An American Plague. So, um, we're also gonna have a video at the end of the lesson. So you have this video, and then you're gonna watch a 8-minute documentary, and your exit ticket is gonna be based on what we read on the book and what you saw in the documentary, and then you're gonna compare both. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll explain more about the documentary at the end. So, our focusing question is: what were the effects of the unfolding crisis on Philadelphia and its citizens? Our content framing question is: reveal what is a deeper exploration of the crisis effect on people and the relationships revealed in these texts. So, we're going to start with the summary of chapter 16. I hope that everyone is keeping up with the reading. So, as you remember, yesterday we covered chapter 15. We were talking about how Maddie's already recovering. She was moved to the farm where she's in the final stages of her recovery. And they kind of leave off the chapter by saying that soon Grandpa and Maddie will go back to the city. And in this part of the chapter, chapter 16, now they're talking about how they're transitioning back into the city after having survived the yellow fever and meeting awesome people that are helping the community, and now they're heading back to Philadelphia. So grandfather and Matilda say bye to Rush Hill, and Mrs. Flagg, the lady that was helping out Maddie when she got sick. They're riding to Philadelphia on a wagon with 5 children that are being sent to the orphanage. So, as you remember, yesterday we covered how a lot of kids are losing their parents, a lot of the parents are dying, they're sick, and the man Israel opened up a big orphanage for all the kids that are being left without parents, and that's where those kids are heading into. So as you can see now, there's a lot of things that they're talking about in An American Plague and Fever 1793 that are matching. So that's the main thing that we want to do. We want to compare what are the things that they're telling us in one book and in the other, and where can we find the similarities and the differences. So then Matilda is in the wagon, and she's sitting next to Miss Bowles. So she's a Quaker dressed in gray. So a Quaker is just someone who's like religious. And if you think back to history, Quakers were one of the first ones to move to the New World in order to find freedom of religion. And they're usually like very helpful people. So they're both making small talk. They're both in the wagon with Grandpa and Matilda and the other 5 children from the orphanage. And well, they're talking, and then Matilda just kind of reveals that she's 15 in December, and Miss Bowles mentions that the orphan house could use an extra pair of hands, so she's kind of asking Matilda if she can help. And Matilda is happy to be treated as an adult and even being considered as an option. But she tells Miss Bao that she first needs to think about her family, make sure that her grandfather and her mother are okay, that they're healthy, and that the coffee shop is up and running. So she just kind of says, sorry, maybe later. So Miss Bowles then continues talking with her, and she tells her not to go venturing out into the Philadelphia streets, that there's a lot of thieves, there's still a lot of fever victims, there's no food in the markets. So, as we remember back to An American Plague, they're mentioning how the reason why there's thieves and a lot of victims and no food is because the government completely signed off and didn't do anything to protect the people, and they just kind of left, and everyone else is just kind of fending for themselves. So the driver is also joining the conversation, and he's just saying like the post office is closed down as well. So there's a lot of things that are just shut down. As we remember in the summary of An American Plague, The post office are closed. A lot of people that work like in the government offices are gone, or it's closed, they're not working. A lot of the guards are not working anymore, so it's just kind of chaotic at the moment. So Ms. Bowles and Matilda are discussing the fate of one of the orphans in the wagon, Susanna. So if you remember, there's the five kids that are in the wagon, and one of them is named Susanna, and they're talking about how she's left without parents and she'll probably get hired to be a servant in order to survive, or since she's pretty, that she might be able to find herself a husband. So she has several options, but in the end, Maddie still doesn't agree with those options. She doesn't think that that should be her only options. Like, she should be able to do as she wishes, and she reflects on how grateful she is that she had the opportunity to have her grandpa, and like she's okay, and hopefully she'll find her mom soon. As the wagon arrives to Philadelphia, the city is now a ghost town. So when they mention ghost town, they mean no one's out in the street. So if you remember back to our current situation, when the city and the government just said, we're going to be in lockdown, like everybody needs to be at home. If you were to go to the store, you could see that the streets were empty. There's no cars, there's no people outside, there's no people in the streets, in the stores, nowhere. So that's what they mean by a ghost city. So there's no one there. And they just see this ghost town with dead bodies. Like, once the Philadelphia was once like a booming city, and at this point, like, there's no one there. All there is dead bodies in the side of the street. um and there's not really like a formal way of getting rid of the dead bodies. So Ms. Ball mentions how most of the deads are being buried in Potter's Field in a mass grave. So a mass grave means they just kind of dig a big grave, so a big hole in the ground, and they just throw whatever bodies they find, because they still don't know how the infection runs. They still don't know if it's dangerous, and a lot of people don't have the money or the resources to really give them a proper burying, burial to the dead people. So they just kind of just throw them in those massive graves. And Matilda calls it a field plowed with by the devil. So I guess like looking at the yellow fever as something that is bad and dangerous and demonic to them, because it's affecting so many of them. And then the wagon arrives to the orphan house, and that's where the chapter comes to an end. So Matilda and Miss Bowles part their ways. Grandpa and Matilda go to the coffee house, and Mrs. Bowles just goes back to the orphanage with the rest of the kids. And that's where chapter 16 ends. So, what are the results of the leader's efforts in chapter 15 and 16? So, we think about the chapter from yesterday and today. Like, what are some things that the leaders are doing and that are creating positive effects? Like they mentioned, a lot of people are stepping up. A lot of people are breaking into committees, subcommittees, and they're trying to do positive changes. But there's also so much they can do, since the government is not really supporting a lot of them. And they're just trying to find answers to the problems when they're not really properly trained, or they don't properly have the resources or have the time. So some of the positive effects was that the conditions have improved, and treatment at Bush Hill has really offered like a effective recovery for many people like Maddie, to recover from the fever. And there's a place for orphans to go now, thanks to Israel. And there's people like Ms. Bowles who generally seem to care for them. So they at least took care of those two problems. So they know that there's now an effective place. They can effectively cure people from the fever. And they have an orphanage for the kids to go, and they have people that really care taking care of them. And some problems that still persisted, even though they're trying to make changes, is that they're still dealing with the dead bodies. As I mentioned earlier, there's still dead bodies in the street. There's still dead bodies just being thrown out. In pages 118 through 119, they're talking about how a family just throws a dead body through the windows. People don't know what to do with it. They're just trying to not have the infected body, the decomposing body in their house. So they're just trying to get rid of it. And there's also a lot of crime. So like you mentioned, the economy is not working at all. No one's selling anything. Everyone's just out trying to survive. And when Maddie and grandfather do return to their house, it's been ransacked. So they've really like stolen everything, like taken everything that they can. And that affects like the people with the businesses, and it affects the people who are starving. So it's a really difficult situation at that point. So what does the Fever 1793 show about the success of the efforts to respond to the yellow fever crisis? So how does the Fever 1793 show how people are stepping up, how people are making improvements? So it shows that they're making progress in addressing the problems. So definitely they're starting off with like the orphans, they're starting with, the treatments, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. So like they mentioned, there's a lot of things that are still not working out, a lot of things that still need to change. And the evidence shows how many people there were and how complicated it was. So the amount of people just, at that point, Philadelphia is such a big city and there's so much contact, and like they're unaware of how it's spreading, they're unaware of how to treat it. So there's a lot of sick people, a lot of people are dying, children are becoming orphans. So there's a big crisis and lack of food and a lot of resources that there's a lot of problems going on. And it seems that if there's needed to be more leaders, like the ones in Murphy describes in chapter 7. So many are doing their best. So like they mentioned in chapter 7 of An American Plague, Murphy is talking about all these people that are stepping up and trying to do their best. So it's showing that people are they're looking for solidarity. Some of them are looking out for themselves, but some are actually putting their lives at risk to try to get everyone else and the city moving forward. So that's an awesome thing that is being described in both Fever 1793 and An American Plague. So for our homework, like I mentioned, so we have an 8-minute documentary titled Fever 1793, Citizens Agurd on YouTube. So you can find the link in the same page in the Word document that you found the link to my YouTube video. And I have also attached the link to the exit ticket. So when you get to the attendance form, when you get to your question, you have to click the link, and then you watch the video. It's really quick. It's about 8 minutes. And what you're doing is you're comparing how are they presenting a certain character in the book, and how are they presenting him in the video that you're going to watch. So the way that it's set up, it's like sentence structures and then there's blanks. So your job is to rewrite what I wrote, and then in the space that's open, you're going to input what you think they're doing. So you input your answers there. If you have any questions, just message me. It's super self-explanatory. You copy and paste the sentence, and you just fill in the blanks with the information that you think goes there, based on both the documentary and the book. Just make sure you complete the attendance form and the exit ticket. Again, watch the documentary before you do the exit ticket, and make sure that you're keeping up with your readings. I know that we're moving kind of fast, but we are coming to an end of the school year, so we need to make sure that we're done with our tests so we can AR test it, and we can be prepared for our end of module exam. So just make sure that you're keeping up with your work. I'm very proud of everyone. I know that everyone's trying their best, and just like you're working hard, your teachers are working hard, and we're really trying to do everything that we can to help you out to get through the end of the school year. But this is a time where we need to end with a good push. So make sure that you're not slacking off, that you're not starting to get lazy. Just keep working hard, and I promise you that it'll pay off. So just make sure that you're in chapter 17 of Fever 1793 by tomorrow, and chapter 9 of An American Plague. If you have any questions, make sure you message me. I still haven't included the extra credit points, but hopefully towards the end of the week, I repost our grades, and we can see if we still need more extra credit alternative assignments. So we'll see based on how grades are looking. If you guys have any other questions, just make sure you message me. But that's all I have for today. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day. I'll see you guys later.